In our previous tutorial, we made it so that our Bob character could move in and out of two different scenes using a warp door kind of thing, and we also talked about positioning coordinates as well, so that it made sense that every time he would leave a door, he would come out the other side, right next to a door. But there's a problem now with this, and it has to do with our interaction here with our desk. You'll remember that when we set up our dialogue and interactions with the desk, we made it so that the first time it said, "This is my desk." And then the second time it used a counter variable, a dialogue count variable, to establish the next dialogue that we needed to use. Now when we leave this scene and come back in, it would make logical sense that it would still stick with the second dialogue and not the first one, but it doesn't. It actually goes back to the first dialogue point. The reason it does this is because when you unload this scene to go into the next one, it resets all those scene variables back to 0, right? So let's show the code here so we can see. It goes back to 0 for the dialogue and loses the value of our count up to 1. So we're going to have to keep track of the dialogue points in order to know when our character has already been somewhere or said something or read something. So if you've been paying attention, you should kind of have an idea of where we're going to go with this, right? We need to store information, and we need to store this information so that it can be seen basically throughout the entire project. So what are we going to use? We're going to use global variables. Okay? So we've got our position global variables, and now we're going to add another one here. We're going to add a global dialogue variable. Maybe we'll do scene dialogue. We'll do that. And then we're going to add child global variables for each scene. So we're going to do main dialogue count. That's going to keep count of what dialogue we are using. And we can even do a child variable to this and have the main desk dialogue count equal to 0. And that way now globally we can keep track of the dialogue count for the desk. Right now that's the only object we have, but we'll want another child variable to scene as well for our kingdom. So let's also make that here as well. Kingdom, kingdom dialogue count. Okay, and we don't have anything for this right now, but we're going to just keep it here. And let's hit apply. So now those variables can be seen throughout the entire project. So we've got to go back into our code here though and change it up a little bit. So when the space key is released, dialog is visible, that's fine. Dialog desk is equal to 0. We want to change this to our global one. So let's do that. Let's change variable. We'll click this button. No, we don't want that. We want the object, not of a variable. We want the variable. Here we go, right there. Value of a global variable. And we want this one, the main desk dialog count, equal to 0. So if the main desk dialog count is equal to 0, we will do the desk variable string dialog dot 0. We don't have to change that up. Okay, we can leave that the way it is. This variable is global just to keep track of it throughout the project. We don't need to change this one because this is still where we're storing the actual dialog itself, is in the desk object, right? So we don't have to worry about that. We do, however, want to change this counter to 1. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's change the global count. For that, we need to go into variables right here, global variables, value of a global variable. And we want that. We want to change this now equal to 1. Okay, so now if this, we need to change this variable to our global one. Equal to 1. And then that'll still show this variable string from our desk object for 1. So let's run this first, and then we'll talk it through sort of what happened here. All right, so we've got the first time it should show this is my desk. We're good here, okay? Second time it should show, we talked about this, it's still my desk. Okay, now if we leave this scene and come back in, previously we reloaded this scene and the local variables all got placed back at 0. But since we're using a global one now that doesn't change, we should still be on the second one. There it is. Okay, so let's just quickly recap sort of what changed here. We changed our local variable, the one that counts, that keeps count of where we are in the dialog. We changed that to a global one so it doesn't change just by opening and closing a scene. So when we started out with 0, it did the 0 dialog, and then when we upped it, we made it equal to 1, this global one, it kept it in memory so that when we came back in, it knew we're still on global variable 1. Okay?